Board of Supervisors, pledge if you will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I want to make an announcement. There's been multiple executive sessions on the past month for personnel, legal, real estate on January 19, 27, 28, 30, and 31. Again in February 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 8th, 10th, 14th, and 15th. We've been very busy. So with that, for the approval of the minutes from January 17th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from January 17th.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Up front, George?
Can you share it?
I'll share this.
George Salchinos, Hall Road, Bertrandville. Did you break down like which of the sessions were real estate, personnel, or legal?
We could, but
There's a lot of mixture every day.
I think you said, did we?
So could you?
Oh, could you? Possibly, but once we get together, we're hard to stop.
That's like every other business day, you're having an executive session. So, I mean, I think you're allowed to say whether they were for legal or personnel or this is like boilerplate.
I wouldn't say one of these was just there weren't many that were just one topic. There were multiple things that were going
every
on.
other day you're discussing all three.
Oh,
in
Bernie
this situation,
was in Jamaica for most of that time, so we were harassing him.
Yeah, we were having some calls.
Yeah,
that was the only way we could communicate with them, was at certain times.
The reason you were having a lot of them is because you were out of town, is that?
yeah, and things got out of control. Right. Yeah,
in part, rather than do a round robin, so we were not in executive session. We got together, talked about it. Whether we made a decision or not, we said we're going to fess up that we had this conference call.
I see. So they were predominantly conference calls.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Did Barry have his hand up?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Okay, next acknowledgement, the thank you letter from Henry Hankin Library for our contribution. And next we can do reports, police reports. Archie?
There's a question over here.
Oh.
Not necessarily a question, but
stand up to the mic, say your name, address, and
Joan Abercrombie, Pewtown Road, Kimberton. My father's hard of hearing is a disability and he cannot hear. Is there any way we could turn up the mic or speak louder? Is there any other?
Well, I have a disability also.
Okay.
And that is I'm vocally disabled.
Okay.
Subglottic stenosis. So if you're going to ask, you're going to put one disability over another. I can't help it.
I'm not pitting one disability over another, but is there any way, do you have a hearing device or
no,
you're unable to speak louder? That's okay. But is there another way that people with a hearing problem in the attendance?
We're all trying to learn to use these mics and stay real close to them because that helps. But in every announcement about a board of supervisors meeting,
can you hear her?
I can't. I don't.
Hello, Miller. Can you hear me? Okay, so it asks you to notify the township office ahead of time if you need any special accommodation. So I'm sorry we didn't have that notice tonight.
All right, then we'll get it next time, I guess. Okay.
Excuse me, before you sit down. We'll make accommodations, but I need to know what specifically would it be helpful in this case. A lot of microphone. Does he have a hearing aid? Does he sign? Sorry?
He has a hearing aid and it is on.
Okay, so just louder microphone, I don't,
Are the microphones turned up or are they turned down?
there's only one
They're on
setting,
or off. I apologize that mine was
Sarah
flipped
has
off a
spoken
minute
when
ago.
she's talking, but you guys don't. I'm just telling you, I can't hear.
I'm trying to
and
address.
if you can do something, fine. If you can't, you can't.
I can't do it tonight. In the next meeting, we will have the issue addressed. Okay? I'm gonna speak into the mic
If there's
loud,
internet, you know.
the best that we can do. Speak into the mic, it's only on or off. If I can get another device to raise the volume, I'll get that for the next meeting, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Hi,
Name and address.
oh, I'm sorry, it's Barry Deliberate, 1012 Pottstown Pike, Chester Springs, PA. I do a little bit of audio and video work. Can I approach the bench?
And you approach the bench? For
I
what
think
purpose?
he already did.
May I come up to your bench?
We do have a new.
Well, I was
speaker
wondering if I could
too.
see your microphones for just a second.
So why don't you do this after the meeting instead of holding up?
Wait, it just take 1 second.
No,
Okay, so I can't
you can do it.
show you how to
after-
use the microphone
after the-
properly?
After the meeting.
Dana, maybe you could just entertain me. Could you put the microphone up close to your mouth? Close to your mouth. Like this.
Like this.
Okay.
Close, you
I
can get
know.
closer.
I know I'm not Dana though, so you talk to her.
Hear that any better?
Your sound.
Oh,
I didn't say anything.
Or-
so. Well, I apologize, as I mentioned, I
He's trying
apologize.
to help, that's all.
Mine was actually off earlier because I had turned it on. I think we started to share and then Sarah pushed it back and it went off. I didn't know that. So it is now on. for
Okay,
me.
the closer
And
you-
we also have a new device, which might make everybody happy. This is going to pick up every sound on the table.
Okay, well,
So that'll help for the recording.
the point is, it's just closer is better.
Mhm.
If you let it out, if you turn up the sensitivity too far, if you were able to on that, which you're not, it's not gonna work because it would pick up any extra noise that would come in here. It's very simple, just to keep your mouth closer to the microphone and it'll work just perfectly, because I'm sure he can hear me right now. So the second thing is the donation, which is the subject we're actually on. Yeah, by the way, can you hear me at all? Well, look at that. The question was the donation to the Henrietta Hankin Library. How much was it?
That's not the topic we're on.
Oh, no, it is. That was the last thing we were on, wasn't it?
No, I don't believe we got there yet.
It's $1,000.
Okay, yeah, because you spoke about it and then skipped over public comment. So it was $1,000?
Great, do that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Joan, would it help if your father moved up closer?
Where's the speaker?
Yeah.
Do you wanna move up closer?
We don't mind if you
I'll
want.
move up
to sit
closer.
here.
Sure.
Is-
Okay, Sergeant.
Absolutely,
report.
absolutely. No, it's fine.
Hi, the West Vincent Township Police Department, January 2023 monthly report. For training, we have CPR, first aid, and AED. Totals, summary totals, number of calls for service, 241, number of crimes investigated, 12, number of arrests, 2, PFA violation and fraud and theft by deception, number of traffic stops, 52, number of accidents investigated, 5. Thank you.
Sorry, question. When I hear 241 calls, are they calls that the officers are responding to? Or are they just calls that are coming in for whatever reason? In other words, when you get a phone call, you said that you had 241, I believe, is that correct?
Okay,
Do each one of those calls represent an occasion when the police actually have to go out and address the call, or?
yes,
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Do you guys track, like,
Megan,
can you, Megan Emery, 1506 Cedar Mill Road.
Closer to the
My
microphone.
question was whether,
Your bend is down.
you guys track crime rates year over year. Do you know if we go up or down, or is there any kind of tracking that you know how we do as a community?
Yeah, we have statistics. That's kind of why we write reports and stuff. I don't have those with me. You're welcome to call tomorrow in the daytime and speak with the admin assistant to get these statistics if that's what you want. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, the bills list.
I will make a motion to approve the bills list for all township funds in the amount of $727,647.21.
I will second that. I'm not gonna vote on it because I didn't get a chance to see it.
Okay, any discussion?
Like,
I think the bills list should total 500,000, not 700,000. The general fund number of 556,111 just happens to be equal to the total expenses for the general fund. And that's not what would be on the bills list. If you look at the bills list, it says 245,000. So that's probably overstated. Now, there was no financial plans for capital projects, etc. So I don't know about that, but
John, I had that disparity explained to me this afternoon. And the difference between the 200, whatever you mentioned, and the 556,111 is transfers.
what? How
Taking money out of the general fund and putting it into the payroll fund. So it doesn't show up as a check, but it's an expenditure.
Okay, well then let me go further here. If you look at the expenses, the number is 556,111,000, exactly to the dollar. Now this billing list goes to February 22nd. That's it only covers part of January and most of it is February. And this report is should be only January. And so if you're going to add payroll and other expenses, that's a big change. But I think, Terry, you ought to go back and address that. That's not the issue. So,
Okay.
or I will talk to you anytime about it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Okay, bills list, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next is the treasurer.
Anna, did you
I was
abstain?
abstaining, yes. I apologize. I was in the air all day today and just got here a couple of hours ago and that came out today. So I have not had a chance to do my due diligence.
Okay, on to the treasurer report.
Mr. Chairman, before I do the report, it was pointed out to me last month that the prior reports included how much revenue and expenses occurred in prior month, and I was prepared to make that presentation tonight. However, QuickBooks package crashed this afternoon and is still broken. I guess Humpty Dumpty's on repair list and trying to get it up and running. It's the third time it's failed in 2 weeks. But I do have the report as I read it in the past. I'll read that now. The APA fund balance is 125,173.60. General fund $769,036.62. Open space $2,672,238.37. Liquid fuels $131,748.06. Capital road fund $3,333,070.07. Capital project reserve $2,384,996.51. Capital equipment fund $509,854.17. Sewer fund $178,981.43. And a rebill account $785,091.70 for a total of all funds $10,890,190.73. Again, I apologize. I was prepared to do that report, but I'll have that for you next month.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I move that we accept the treasurer's report as submitted.
Second.
I will second that.
Any discussion? John?
John Eldridge, 1634 Hilltop Road. I didn't give you my address before. I noticed we're going now to this thing that looks like fund balances. And so the fund balance for the general fund, if you look at last month's report, was 872,000. There was a loss of 322,000, but the fund balance only went down by 100,000. So there's a $200,000 inconsistency unless somebody changed the December reports after they came out. But yeah, right there's $200,000 strange, unexplainable difference. And again, I don't know why we live with fund balances. We don't budget fund balances, so we can't compare them to anything. It's just something to do. It's an easy thing to do. If you look in the computer and fund balances pop out.
I think it's useful to know how much money we have.
I think so too, but I think this doesn't represent it. Something's off by 200,000 right there in the general fund.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Anyone else? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next manager's report.
Aside from the items, aside from the items that I work on, they're represented here in the budget. It was reported earlier that we have a new microphone here that should help the recordings. If it doesn't, I'm sure we'll find out next month. We did contract with a new company to replace the door locking system in case it's been working on a periodic basis. We hope to have that up and running by the end of the month. And lastly, there was a question raised last month about the county planning commission participating in the repurchase of TDRs that the townships purchase. In other words, if they buy it from us, so we can have more money. So I sent a letter to the director of the county planning commission who replied in the negative. They don't buy TDRs. They make available money for organizations to purchase TDRs, but they do not buy a TDR in municipalities. So hopefully that answers the question. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Old business being none, move to new business. So first item is authorization for the advertisement of the 2023 road program bid.
I make a motion to authorize the advertisement of the 2023 road program bid.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Number 6, authorization to bid for the 15-foot rotary mower for the Public Works Department.
I make a motion to authorize the bid for a 15-foot rotary mower for the Public Works Department.
And I will second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Number 7, approve purchase of the 60-inch construction duty forks and work platform in the amount of $12,500.
I'll make that motion to approve the purchase of a 60-inch construction duty forks and work platform in the amount of $12,500.
And I will second that.
I have a question. Could you explain what that is?
Sure. The construction forks is much like you see on a forklift. They're wonderfully will attach to the front end of the backhoe, and the loading platform will be attached to those so that they can raise a worker up higher so it can work above grade. Right now, we don't have those available, and sometimes the workers do climb into the bucket truck and into the bucket and work above grade, which is a hazard to them and the township. So if we buy this, then they can elevate safely and then work in a safe environment.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Number 8, authorization to bid for the 2023 F-550 service truck with snow plow and truck body.
I'll make a motion to authorize the bid for a 2023 F-550 service truck with snowplow and truck body.
And I will second that.
Any discussion? Is it done? All in favor? Aye.
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 Mr. Chairman, before you go on, I'd like to inform the public. You recall last year, the board authorized the purchase of a new dump truck. We haven't received it yet. The last conversation we had with the vendor was they may start building it in March or April of this year. So it's been at least a year we placed the order, and it's still someplace out there to be built. We should get it hopefully by Labor Day. That's how long it takes to get equipment.
Thank you. Number 9, approve resolution 6-2023, extinguishing all TDRs acquired prior to December 31 of 2022.
I make the motion to approve resolution number 6, 2023, extinguishing all TDRs acquired prior to December 31, 2022.
I will second that. I do have a comment also I'd like to make.
Okay.
I'm looking at the resolution for this. I just talked to Mark about that as well. I think that we need to take off, it becomes a little ambiguous here on under number 2. We need to take those last 3 words off where it says in the township. So it's just that we're saying that we're transferring to another party for use as development rights. So it would not, so it's saying we're completely extinguishing, and that makes it sound like we can use it somewhere else. You see what I mean?
I see, but I get it.
Under 2, the last 3 words.
I see it. I'm trying to read it. I think you might have meant that.
Second provision was a catch-all provision, just to make sure that after they were extinguished, that nothing could be sold. Assuming that they could remain sold outside the township, then if you wanted to remove those 3 words, that would make that more clear. I don't have any issue with that.
It's just in conflict
Number
with
2.
number 1. I think if you leave those last couple of words in there.
Right, it was only contemplated that they would be sold in the township. Assuming there's a possibility of being sold outside the township, then I would just remove those 3 words.
Okay, I will second Dana's suggested change.
Don't you have to
rescind
your motion?
Oh, you want?
Yeah, rescind your motion first, and then make the motion reflecting Dana's change.
Maybe it's your turn to read.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 6, 2023, extinguishing all TDRs acquired prior to December 31, 2022, with the change in paragraph 2 to delete the last 3 words in the township.
And I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
Hans Buitendijk, excuse me, Hans Buitendijk, St. Matthew's Road, 96. Got a question just as a layman, novice in this. What does it really mean to be retired and extinguished?
Means that we can't sell them to anyone else or allocate them to another parcel of property. So they just go away. They're going.
They won't be used anyplace.
And by removal of the in the township in the 2nd paragraph, that sounds like that's that at that point in time it's wider open. Can you still clarify that, because it was a little difficult to hear?
But what it ended up saying when you left it in the township, and it made it sound like we could use them somewhere else, and there really is no other market for it at the moment. And I don't, we don't think there will be. That was the discussion that John was saying he had earlier with the county about trying to see if there was another market for these TDRs, and there's not. So it just removes the ambiguity.
Okay, that clarified. It was a little hard to hear.
Thank you, Hans.
George, you're on your way up?
Yep.
Okay.
Hold on, see.
Yeah.
So
Just
to be clear,
name.
George Dolcinas, 1415 Hollow Road, Birchmount. Just to be clear, in the township, you meant that these are extinguished for sale only within the township, but you reserve the right to sell them outside?
No, neither.
Yeah,
We're
this-
gone
yeah.
for all time, anywhere.
With the
Why
words in
wouldn't
the
you-
township. it
Why
makes-
would you retain that right?
Well, let's fast forward
Well,
10 years from now, and you're sitting up here.
Well, probably not.
Just suppose. And you want to take all the hard-earned work that was done over the years in obtaining these TDRs and the township paying for them, and just use it, to your
But
fancy.
how
And so
can you
this-
use it? I mean, it seems like if,
That's what the transfer is about. If it's still sitting there, it could be transferred from the seller to another parcel.
so the township would receive a payment as part of the transfer.
Yes,
Possibly.
at that point, that they'd be selling us.
So, assuming these TDRs were purchased with money that was by statute for open space,
Mhm.
if they're sold, the funds that you retain from that sale can only be used for open space purposes. Is that right?
I think your sentence
correct.
might be.
Okay, so that's correct. So of our TDRs, how many were purchased with open space money? I know we've sold them in the past before, but I think the argument was we could take that money and put it in the general fund because it wasn't paid for with open space tax money.
I think there was one circumstance of that.
There was a circumstance where we increased the density of a development and put the money in the general fund, but as far as I know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the remaining TDRs, if they were sold, the money could only be used for open space purposes, so why would you want to give up that right? I mean,
George,
it's unlikely they're gonna be sold, but maybe some will change in 5 years.
George, we've spent a lot of time looking into this. You may remember that the original motion from the recommendation from the Open Space Advisory Board was 2 or 3 years ago when they recommended we extinguish the TDRs that we have both. Some of the TDRs have already been extinguished when they were donated, not purchased. So those don't exist.
That's a contract between the person that
Right.
donated the TDR and the township.
And
These
then-
ones are purchased with tax money.
And then we spent last year, 2022, one of the action items, the task for the Phoenixville Regional Planning Committee was to investigate if there were possible sale points, possible outlets for our TDRs. So it was reviewed on many different levels through 2022, including we kept hearing that Lancaster does it great. Lancaster has a totally different program, and Lancaster has a feature unlike ours. They have county level zoning. We have municipal level zoning, and we can only transfer TDRs within places that we do shared zoning, so only within the Phoenixville region. So, having spent time having the Phoenixville region saying.
Sarah, I understand that right now it seems unlikely they're going to be able to sell it. I'll give you that. But why wouldn't you want to just reserve the right, keep them, and have the right to possibly sell them outside, raise more open space money, rather than having to tax people for it? I gotta believe these things. I mean, I don't know if anybody's done the calculation. How many TDRs are there in there that we're extinguishing?
I haven't done the calculation you're headed towards, but selling them outside
I
of,
mean, but there's.
you said
100
selling them outside of the region. That has been deemed not possible.
George,
today.
I see it as a liability for the township to hold on to them for the potential of using them within the township because there's nowhere we have to use them. That wouldn't just increase density beyond our zoning.
But why would you extinguish them for use outside the township then?
Because there's no viable outlet for it.
Well, there isn't
And you just
today.
keep them as a liability. There's not.
There's not today. You can't say that this supervisor 10 years from now, that Bernie referenced, won't be looking at a different map where you could sell them and.
Well, and I don't believe we're extinguishing them each time we purchase them. I believe we're looking at them on a yearly basis. So if we, is that right, Mark? So if we sell, or we purchase, you know, another 10 or 50 this year, we could decide at the end of the year whether we want to retain those. So we still have the opportunity to retain to use them.
But you're giving away, you know, it's gotta be worth $8 million in taxpayer money that's gone into what you're gonna retire. Isn't it? What, do we know what we pay for the, how many TDRs are there? Does anyone know?
I refer you to our manager.
I don't know that number.
It's millions, right? I think we can agree on that.
No.
You don't think
No.
the TDRs retiring, we paid millions of dollars for?
What was the dollar figure of TDRs 10 years ago?
26.
It was always over 20,000. It was always over 20,000. I think it's 30 now. I think we paid 50 for some TDRs. So, I mean, it's millions of dollars. And that money was raised with a tax revenue, paying back a bond. Once you pay the bond back, you figure it's double. I mean, it's significant. And just to retire them and say, you know, I don't think I see what you're trying to achieve. But I don't think you should give away the right. I'll give you that you don't want it used in a township, but I don't know why you would give the right outside the township. It just seems like forever is forever, and the risk outweighs the reward. So, but what is the risk, Bernie? I don't. That's what did I open up with? You open up that somebody could sell it 10 years and get a bunch of money. Exactly. And use that money for what? You can only use it for open space preservation.
A transferable development right can be sold to a developer so that they have an extra right.
Yes, and so say you sold it in Lancaster County to use just
which we can't.
And we get, you know,
It has to stay in Chester County, first of all.
Okay, fine.
Phoenixville Regional.
Right. Thanks, George.
Okay.
No, we really did look into that.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, number 10, approve the resolution number 7-2023, this Beckman minor subdivision land development plan.
I am honored to make the motion to approve resolution number 7-2023, Beckman minor subdivision / land development plan.
Do I still second?
No.
No, okay, yeah, so we were concerned because there was a new plan.
Well, why don't you ask, it's not a new plan. And you haven't heard from
no, we have not.
The developer's engineer, and he's walking forward now.
And
so would you please tell us what was submitted?
This is the first
I did the review letter from Ed Blatchall, LTL. It's basically just comments that were addressed on the plan. Nothing changed line work wise. It's just notes and stuff like that. Just to be sort of thing being in compliance with the LTL. That is it. No plan change at all. Just some waivers and the variances we put on that.
Okay, there was a question about fees.
Yeah, there was a fee in lieu of that was questioned about the open space. Since the client has a conservation land all around them in their family, we're asking that to be waived. We'd rather not pay a fee for that because they have all the open space around them anyway.
That's not in the resolution. So my understanding is that in order to address that, you have to change the resolution.
Is the fee in lieu of in here?
Subsection F. It's not in the resolution regarding the fees.
Well, we haven't even established the fee, which is my problem. I don't think we can vote on this without having a discussion about that.
I don't think we need a fee, so I'm not worried about it.
But is that this
also in the township,
no,
in the township review, it's also number 13B. If you have that township review in front of you.
Which, this one.
It's a small private lot. This would use 11% of the site's property, not practical due to the lot size and minor nature of the project. The applicant is not offering a fee in lieu of.
And this was in Ed's letter.
This is in the township.
Okay,
And we talked
I'm
about it.
looking at page 4F.
So he's referring to
Yeah,
5.
it's just for five.
Number 5, page 5. 13E. I'm sorry, 13D. And also request a waiver at number 11.
What says the applicant is not offering a fee in lieu of? That doesn't mean it's not required.
Okay, I mean, that's, yeah, that's.
This hasn't been discussed.
Well, I mean, if you want to discuss that, that's fine. That's.
Yeah, we're not trying to hold this up. We just want to make sure that we have.
Yeah.
You have to,
everything.
I understand.
It's really too bad you gave us more information today.
It's not any information on this is
I
a review letter,
understand.
that I'm answering a review letter.
That you documented.
That's the only thing that's, I'm making the plan compliant with this.
Yeah.
Ed, do you have it? Go ahead.
I have a question, does the resolution
Would you-
have a?
Hey, can I just come up and speak into the microphone? Thanks.
Ed Ladshaw, Township Engineer. Does the resolution have a condition of approval that he has to comply with the unresolved issues in the January 11th review letter?
Yes.
And then secondly, there were 5 waivers that were requested. I don't know if any of those have been approved yet. Or would they all be approved with the motion, or do they need to be discussed?
There's
I think
3
that's back.
waivers in the resolution, 4 waivers. 4? Yeah.
There were
Oh, yeah, 4. Okay.
5 requested.
Did the planning commission,
Oh, I'm sorry.
did the planning commission have objection to any of the waivers?
My recollection is they were recommending approval of 4, and I think they deferred the open
board.
space 5,000 square feet or fee in lieu of as a board issue.
Which wasn't discussed.
So the
Okay.
fee in lieu of open space was one of the waivers that was requested. The planning commission recommended that the board determine a fee in lieu of open space.
Correct.
So that's reflected in the resolution.
I think it's onerous to suggest a fee in lieu on a 5-acre parcel being divided into 2. What kind of open space do we expect they would have set aside if there wasn't a fee in lieu?
Okay, so being that, we don't have our ducks in a row here. No one's fault. But we should table this until.
Can't we just get our ducks in a row right now?
No.
I'm very sorry.
Can-
John's
Excuse me, this has been going on for a long time, and this project is a simple, small project. There's no reason that this cannot be passed tonight with all the things that we asked for. There's no damage to anybody, no damage to the township at all. I would really suggest that you could approve it tonight with the conditions, me meeting the review letter from LTL. That would be wonderful. My client would really appreciate that. It's not a major deal. It's something simple.
I guess my concern is only, setting a precedent, like what is a new thing. So how are we handling it? And we need to understand that.
What is new?
When we're dealing with the fee in lieu.
Okay. So the planning commission said we should do it. You were probably there when I was. So it's not completely new.
No,
So
but we haven't discussed it as a board. I mean, we're here, we can discuss it.
We make a lot of big decisions with very little discussion. I think this is a minor discussion that we could answer tonight.
Excuse me. And you said there were 5 waivers requested?
One of them was for the open space fee in lieu of.
The other 4 are on
5
here.
were requested. I don't know what's in the resolution.
There's only 4 in the resolution that includes the open space, so I'm a little concerned.
No, it actually,
No,
it actually doesn't include the open space.
That's what's missing.
One that wasn't.
There are 4 waivers in paragraph 2. 1F has the fee in lieu.
Yeah, I would suggest, what I observe many municipalities doing is a resolution like this, you know, I do see a resolution for a plan like this passed many times, as long as it captures the unresolved issues that are listed in the LTL January 11th letter. I think that's critical. And then as long as you act on the waivers in one way or the other, then I think that captures the issue.
Ed, have you looked at this new plan? Because
No, that was just issued
this just
today.
came and I can't even see it,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that was just
I have a
issued
hard time
today.
approving it without seeing it, but if you approve it, then I would be fine with that.
I think
Yeah, I
Andrew's
haven't
bringing
reviewed
you a bigger one.
I couldn't see with my reading glasses.
If you made some approval.
Yeah.
Done as well.
What he's telling us is the revised plan has the waivers.
The only thing I added
List on
was,
the plan he put on the
the
plan.
variances requested, there was a date, he wanted to put off the,
Your letter.
January 11th.
January 19th. I didn't subsequent letter. Was there a supplement letter from his 11th?
no. Basically, I just added this no, variances. Other than that, there's no.
So there's no change. to
No,
the
no,
plan,
no language.
It's just a verb.
Yeah,
Just-
I think the planning commission made the recommendation on January 19th, and it should reflect that the LTL letters, the 11th.
So the resolution would have to be amended.
And I was still waiting for a resolution date and numbers for the variances. I didn't get that, resolution number.
I believe I made a motion. Did we get a second? The conversation's supposed to happen after the second.
Okay, I will second that.
All right, any discussion?
Just so that we're clear, there's 4 waivers that that are
Yes.
reflected in the resolution.
Yeah.
The other waiver is for the fee in lieu of.
Right.
And that is a decision the board needs to make as to whether to impose one. There was no calculation of a fee. The planning commission made a recommendation that it be just determined based on the township's calculation of those fees. But you could grant a waiver from that as well.
You know, my opinion is we table this, get everything straight, then come back in and address it properly.
And my opinion is that we grant this waiver.
Okay, so with that said, all in favor?
What are we voting in favor of?
On the resolution?
Aye.
Okay, I think we have to do it in 2 parts, right? One in the.
Well,
With the,
right,
with the,
but
you're
that
saying
would- that would require
you're
a
saying
second
with-
motion.
no, you're
so
saying
that-
with no wait. Okay, so the
that's
first part
why
is
I
aye.
asked what Bernie
You
said.
voted aye to the.
I vote
I'm
aye
okay
to
with the-
approving it.
Approving this plan. The next question is about the waiver, right?
Okay.
So I'm okay with approving this plan.
Okay, and I'm a nay on that.
So the board, you voted on the resolution.
Yes,
Correct, yeah.
Opposed. And it was 2-1.
yes.
Correct. Okay, so next, Sarah, you want to make your motion?
I don't think we need it. I think we just voted to approve the plan.
I thought you told me it was in 2 parts.
It is, if we had turned that one down, then you could come to the.
Okay.
You ask the lawyer, I'm not
I
a
mean,
lawyer.
The big thing is we just need to have something that we figured out going forward, when we're waiving that and when we're not, and what our fee is per dwelling. And I don't think we've figured that out. I mean, I would be okay with waiving it this time around since we are holding these people up, but I do think it needs to get resolved.
Just so that we're clear that the resolution does not include a waiver, so if you want to amend it to include a waiver of the open space fee in lieu of, then that would be the appropriate motion.
Would it not automatically be giving them a waiver to approve it without that in there?
No, the resolution
needs to be
says
added
they
in.
will remit it. So. So am I amending my previous motion, or is it a new one?
You would have to amend the previous motion.
Okay. Let's see how it goes this time. I'm still pleased to make a motion to approve resolution 7-123 Spackman minor subdivision / land development plan. With 2 changes to the resolution presented before us. One is to correct the LTL consultants review letter date to January 11th, and the other is to delete paragraph 2F and include the waiver for fee in lieu of as one of the 5 waivers granted for this plan.
I will second that.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Did you vote?
We did,
No.
we did,
Oh, I
yeah,
thought
she
you heard
wanted to
it. I
speak.
knew, but I thought I heard you.
Pat Spackman, 595 Fellowship Road, property owner. We have 5 acres. We would like to subdivide a 2-acre parcel off of that to build 1 dwelling. On either side of our 5 acres is the family farm. Spackmans have lived there for over 65 years. On either side of this 5-acre property, we have sold our development rights to Lands Trust, so we cannot do anything else. If that's not enough open space for this in fee in lieu of, I don't know why this is even appropriate for this topic. So I just wanted to put that out there. We don't even know what the fee would be. I don't know what your calculation would consider, but you really would limit us to any other development. So I don't understand why there's a concern for open space.
What did the planning commission tell you?
The planning commission approved it.
They approved it?
They said it needed to go before the board.
Okay, that's their job, is
Yeah.
to recommend
Yeah.
things to the board.
And please understand, this is not personal towards you or your property. It's the issue is just that we don't have a fee that it has not been determined yet, and that's just what
And
I'm
just
pointing
saying
out.
it's not really appropriate for this.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, we're recommending to waive it,
thank you.
but
And I'm just trying to
that hasn't been voted on yet, but that's what the recommendation is.
right. And so I just wanted to give you some more information because I'm not
Okay.
sure that the big picture was being considered here.
Thank you, Pat.
John?
Chairman, I would ask the board to consider directing the administration to prepare a fee in lieu of, so the board has a little better direction. And one of the things that I spoke before on this matter before is that there should be some kind of consideration given to properties that have participated in the PBR open space preservation program, because if they made a commitment toward that, it should be recognized that in the fee structure itself. So in this case, what the applicant had said makes appropriate sense, that they have already demonstrated their willingness to participate in the open space program, that in this case, might be appropriate for the board to consider waiving the fee, but you should direct the administration to prepare a policy for the board going forward. And one of the things that should be under consideration is how the impact of a property owner's participation in the open space program, the trail program, those things impact on that calculation and that fee structure and the decision the board makes on a property by property basis.
Okay, thank you.
Good idea, John.
Yeah.
Moving
Okay.
forward.
Okay, I lost sight of
They just need to vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Not very much.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you, Ed.
Number 10. Number 11, discussion of amendments to proposed zoning ordinance.
I could read I could make up a motion, go with that.
I think
Chairman,
it's just a discussion.
This came up as a result of a number of issues. One, the recognition of the extent the township has, the extent of the success of the township's open space program is referenced a number of months ago. We made a presentation on what the open space program was like today. Earlier or last year, the board updated the Ludwig's Corner Master Plan to recognize some changes and to extend some uses there. And the success of that development in that area, I think, been recognized. A couple other changes were made during the year with respect to the expansion of the environmental regulations and stormwater management regulations. They all go hand in hand together. Where I think it's important for the board to recognize that the situation the board is facing in the 2020s is much different than it was facing in the onset of change in the century. Back then, there was very little activity. You were faced with some large, significant developments, and the reaction was to extend the density provisions, overlay zoning district, pretty much throughout the township. Given the fact that the board has made the direction to make investments in public infrastructure and road improvements in the Ludwig's Corner master plan area and the extent of the open space provisions conservation area throughout. I think it's appropriate for the board to look at removing the steps the township took about 20 years ago to extend high density development throughout the township. And because there is little infrastructure throughout the township, there's very little public sewer, public water available. The road network is pretty much the same as it has been in the past 20, 25 years. So it's appropriate, I think, for the board to look at that and to re-emphasize its desire to create the Ludwig's Corner master plan area as an area of high density where there's infrastructure, there's public water, public sewer, and a high density where two state highways intersect. I think that's a very valid planning initiative. The zoning ordinance modifications pretty much remove high density development as an overlay district, not a by right district. The by right districts, the uses remain the same throughout the township. It's the option for the developer to develop high density development in specific areas in the township that is being removed, so that high density development occurs where there's infrastructure. The township prepared the ordinances. We circulated them to the regional and county planning commissions. Those review letters are both on site. I would strongly recommend that the public pay very close attention to the regional planning commission's review letter. It's very well written, and it supports the board's decision to strengthen the development, high density development in the area where there's infrastructure as opposed to throughout the township where there is no infrastructure. I think that provides a sound basis for that decision. So, purpose tonight is to review the matter, whether the board's interested in establishing a public hearing, which would be held probably in March, maybe one night, maybe several nights, and the board to then consider whether or not this change has to may or may not occur. It's the history of climate.
Okay, if I could just chime in and suggest that water and sewer, which are vital, are part of this infrastructure. And so without that, the density is just can't be. So that's all I have. Anyone else?
So that's the conversation.
Are we having a
So far,
conversation?
you
Or are we
guys
making
have-
a motion to?
Well, the motion's on 12. We're still discussing. I think.
Yeah.
Did you have a question or?
No, just hearing.
Okay,
Okay, are you gonna talk more about our place, or what are you doing? You were talking about Lovely's Corner, and all of a sudden you're saying other things, so I'm missing the stuff, I'm sorry.
Throughout the township, a number of years ago, board supervisors made an overlay districts and provided high density development as an option. Your property is probably one of those properties. Since that period of time, there's been development has occurred in township where there's been infrastructure, which is at Lovely's Corner master plan. And the township has secured a fair amount of land and open space throughout the township. So we're recommending that the board take a look at the cause and effect that occurred 20 years ago, and is it still valid? Is it still valid for the township to permit high density development throughout the township as an option? There is no infrastructure throughout the township, so that the development would require the provision of public water and public sewer, which would support higher density development. The buy rate development, which is throughout the township, would not change at any parcel. We're only talking about the option to, which is an overlay district, the option to have a higher density development.
Okay. Can I speak?
yep. Bernie Wheeler would like the microphone. Can you tell him okay?
Wes was Barry.
Yeah. We'll go first. Go ahead. No. I didn't know you were there.
No, I insist.
Go ahead.
You're already speaking.
This is awkward. I'm Wheeler Raymond. We have a farm down on the Newtown Road just before Kimberlin. Farm has been in our family for over 200 years. So when you talk about preserving farmland and open space and everything else, and you brag about all the money you spent to do that, we've done it for you for nothing.
Thank you.
My parents made it very clear to the supervisors at the time that they were not interested in developing. They were interested in keeping it as a farm. I've echoed those same words, and my kids are echoing the same words as well. That doesn't mean that we should sit back and get the shaft, a bad deal, and you would sneak stuff through on us. The only reason I'm here tonight is because a member of the audience called me and said, "Do you know what they're doing?" I said, "Well, no, they're not doing anything." "Yeah, they're going to take away all your major development rights." I just heard him describing now that one of the reasons that you want to take this away is because of sewer and water. And I'm not sure why you don't know what's down there. Now, our farm and Kimberbray are all zoned the same way. Kimberbray has sewer. Kimberbray has public water. And when that went in, I was assured that that would be adequate for our farm in the development. We're still not interested in developing. What I tell you is the truth. Sometime in the future, Philadelphia is going to be out here. No matter what you want to do to stop it, it's going to happen. One of the things you can do is go into areas as Radnor, Wayne, down below Paoli, where they used to have the steeplechase, and see what's happened down there. It's all grown up, developed in many, many ways, and our place had this high density overlays put on there, and they were there for, I can't tell you exactly how long, maybe 30, 40 years is not an exaggeration. Originally, they were putting that up on David Clevenstein's ground. I shouldn't use names like this because
most of you don't know what that is, but
Some of us do.
they were putting it up there. I came to the meeting to voice my opinion. I didn't think that was a good idea, and found out that it had been changed and it was going on our place. And I thought, well, go ahead and do that. We don't care. It can sit there. And now for some reason, and I'm going to ask you specifically, why is this being changed? You're taking money away from our future development that you know is going to happen. Of course you can argue with me, but you know I'm right. This is going to be developed. This is going to be Philadelphia someday. And we don't think that we like that, but that doesn't matter. It's going to happen. I'm getting long-winded. I'm going to hold it. So anyway, that's my preaching, I guess. I don't know. I want you to understand, Timber Bray, right next to us, we have public water and we have public sewer. And it sounded to me as though that was one of the reasons why you were taking everything away from us. Now, you're not taking everything. I'm a little bit of exaggeration there, I'm sure. But you're taking major things, big money away from the future. And you're doing it in a way that I had no opportunity to go to the Planning Commission or go anywhere and talk and explain things and make sure they understand. The Planning Commission is all new. Most of the administration in this township is new. They have no concept, no idea of the history. And unfortunately, a lot of them don't care about the history. We have a road down past our farm called Ford Road. And everybody thinks it should be called Chevy Road. Well, it's not called Ford Road because of the car. It's called Ford Road because that's the way the wagons used to go across French Creek. They went down, crossed French Creek, and that was a ford. They drove across the creek, drove the animals across, and so forth. That goes back into history. I guess I'll get started with my notes here in terms of what I want to ask you. Why are you doing this to us? Can you give me an answer to that?
We're not doing it to you, we're doing planning for the whole township.
You're taking all the, what are you taking away from us? TDRs or?
I'm not taking anything from you. What we're doing is moving the UDA from being a much more broad spread region just back to Ludwig's Corner where it was originally. The second thing we're doing is removing the PDR. The land in our zoning that is shown for PDR is now all in agriculture or land conservation. There's no PDR land left in that overlay. So it's just a confusion and an added speed bump in our ordinance. And what you're talking about, the residential mix zone that's on your property, we have talked to East Pikeland. The water and sewage comes from something mountain, Valley Forge Mountain, something sewage and aqua water. We can, they're at capacity. They're giving East Pikeland a hard time to add more homes to the sewage system. So if we come in and say, we want hundreds of these, they're going to say, can't do it. You're going to have to do on lot. And it's not that we're not paying attention to what's happening and what the potential is. Same thing with the public water. We've been told it's not going to come. So we're doing our homework, Wheeler.
By who? I'm sorry, you were told by the public water.
I mentioned the Phoenixville Regional Planning Committee before. These topics are brought up. There were 6 municipalities, Phoenixville, Schuylkill, the 2 Pikelands, West Vincent, and Charlestown meet together. And Most of the information on the sewage and water comes from officials from East Pipeline because they're the ones having to deal with the restrictions they're getting from the providers at their end of the township. And Wheeler, another reason we're doing this is that if you ask residents of West Vincent what's important to them, they say our beautiful landscapes, save more land. We don't want more houses. So we're trying to do some strategic things that help answer that are not takings. You've got that paragraph. It is an opportunity to do what our residents want us to do in conserving farmland and open space in the township. And we would love to help you find a way to conserve your farm in perpetuity.
You'd like to help us find a way to do what?
Conserve your farm as it is in perpetuity.
We're doing that.
Except that you're worried about what's happening to your money.
No, you want to have control over that, but we want to have control over it. And that should be our right, and you should be tickled pink that we're willing to do that. We're not asking you to buy our development right.
Right.
All right, we're saying we'll do it for free. Aren't we nice? Stupid, probably.
No, you're contradictory, but I know you long enough. You and I were on the planning commission together a long time ago, remember that?
This is the point of view, and that's all it comes down to. You want to do it your way, and you have the power to do that. And that's what you're exerting on us. You're saying, come hell or high water, this is what we're going to do. And we're saying we haven't had a chance to explain to you what we want to do. A lot of you are brand new. You don't know the background. Those that do know it, maybe they don't want to speak up. I don't know. But
okay,
we are not interested. Do you hear me? We are not interested in developing.
I do.
Someday down the road, I'm sure there will be an interest in it. I pray to God it won't be in my lifetime. And I'm planning to stick around for a while, so that's bad news.
I can tell that.
Sir.
Yes, sir. Enough.
All right, maybe you've answered this, and I hope Jonas jotted it down, but the next question was why our property, and I think you've probably gone over that, but I don't agree with you. Most people tell me this is spot zoning. How do you answer that?
Mark.
So it's not spot zoning because the township isn't changing the zoning district boundary lines. They're just removing some uses that previously had been permitted, such as a PRD called a planned residential development. And it's permitted now in a different zoning district.
Okay, so maybe
the township can change different uses in different zoning districts. And that's what it's doing here.
Do you agree that what you're doing is going to cut down the value of our farm?
I wouldn't know.
Sir, come on.
No, you can't say that in a blanket.
I just did, and I'm right, and you know I'm right. For us to sell without this stuff on there is going to lower the value of the land.
Okay.
Now, you know that.
There's lots of things that go into whether or not you can develop a property with a high density development. And I think what the board had said was access to public water and public sewer are things that are paramount in that determination. As to whether or not you have that access on your property, I can't say.
Why can't you?
One of the reasons why they are changing the particular uses is to concentrate the high density development, which has occurred in a particular area in that area.
Do you agree with this that we do not have?
Well, we're going to have an open meeting just about this come next month. So
when?
Next month.
It'll be advertised.
So this is just
you're going to decide something tonight, though, aren't you? All right.
So
we've been workshop
next month.
Oh, we have
so
to-
then you can come and have all your issues in order. And With that, I'm gonna ask you to have a seat so we can move on.
So this is just to authorize it for a public hearing.
We're gonna have.
There'll be
I know, but that
there'll be
starts the
extensive
clock
public
running, right?
notices. There'll be extensive public notices of that public hearing, which would potentially be next month. And you'll be given an ample opportunity to provide comment at that hearing.
Those that are sitting here, do you say we have access to sewer and public water? Yes or no?
I say you do not.
You do not know.
You're saying we do not?
You do not have
Not for
public,
identity.
you don't have public sewer and water. You can do it on site.
All right, Sarah, when that went into Kimberbray, I was assured that there would be adequate for us.
Will, we're not gonna decide this tonight. Can we please move on?
Say it again, please.
We're not gonna be able to decide anything here tonight. This is a discussion for the open meeting.
But at least I'm here and I wasn't at any of the other meetings to bring up this point. You started out saying we didn't have public water and didn't have public sewer and therefore you couldn't put these high rise or whatever. I don't know what they want to put in. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
We want to sell it at the high dollar range, and I hope that doesn't offend you. But we don't want to do it now, and I don't want to do it, and my kids don't want to do it. All right? So that all of that has been told to you right down through the family. And we haven't developed anything. So we're telling you what we feel. Will that change? I'm telling you it will change. But how far away, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Let me get to the last couple of questions here. How soon will this take place? You just said you got another meeting coming up.
Yes.
And that'll be a supervisor's meeting?
Yes, correct, yes.
And there'll be nothing concrete before that?
Correct.
Did you say workshop? Is it a workshop?
I asked it will be a public meeting. It will be probably our March Board of Supervisors meeting.
And it would go before the planning again?
It's been through planning.
Yeah, that was just last week. That was the only meeting that has been had about this in the public.
All right, maybe you can give me a simple answer here. What you want to take away or stop or whatever we want to call it, what are you proposing to prevent us from doing? Can you put that just in simple terms real quick?
We're not proposing to prevent you, period.
I don't have the intelligence to interpret that into what you're trying to say. You're trying to say you're not taking anything away from us at all.
Wheeler, when you had the engineer calculate a yield study of 650 dwelling units on that parcel, is that what you're envisioning? You just said high rises. That's what it would have to be to do that kind of development. And Valley Forge, whoever they are, is not going to be able to support that since they can't support new people within their region. We're not in the sewage authority service area. They give it to us as a favor. I don't know what you're envisioning. I really don't think you want to see high rises with 650 apartments on that land.
Okay, so.
Okay.
I wish I could make a magic move here and be able to hear what you're saying, but that's not going to happen.
How many? Wheeler, how many more?
Why wouldn't you contact me in the past, and will you contact me in the future? Go ahead.
We will it'll be a public notice. We're telling you right now that next meeting we're going to. So you've been notified.
What date?
We haven't even made a motion to do this yet. That is the next question.
Right, but what is for?
All right.
So this is the beginning stage of
it's the
discussion.
Date. Today's February 21st. Will be March.
All right.
Is there a holiday?
20. We'll give it to you.
Be March 20.
Can't you do it at a workshop and
Is it leap
have a
year?
whole meeting for that?
No, today's Tuesday.
20, March
20th.
March 20.
Jim, you got-
March 20th, Monday, 7 p.m.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Barry.
Okay,
Could you push it to April and then you could use the whole meeting? Because we do have workshop the first Monday of the month. And that way it wouldn't disturb all the other work, because then the meeting may go long, and I know how you don't like to go long with the meetings, Bernie, so it'd probably be better if you did it the first meeting in April.
We'll see.
well,
Could you do that? That would give us even more time.
Barry,
Do a workshop tomorrow?
Okay.
not a workshop.
No, we can't do a workshop tomorrow.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna take your time, I just had a couple questions real quick. Sarah was talking about the, I believe it's UVA overlay, correct? That's where you have to have a very large parcel in order to do something like a convention center, something like that. Most of that, I think, if not all of it, was actually extinguished with the creation of Bryn Coed, the park.
It is still on the books.
Oh, sure, it's still on the books. I agree with that, John.
And it can be, property owner can acquire the necessary land. You may not have it today, but he can acquire the necessary land to meet the requirements. And that is the issue. The UDA was originally crafted for the Weatherstone development. When the Bryn Coed thing happened, it was extended township wide. And because Bryn Coed's resolved, and we've made changes to the Weatherstone, Ledger's Corner master plan, and the extent of the open space acquisition throughout the township, this is the next, this is the next step forward to the township's desire to preserve land. If you remove this overlay district, which was a reaction to an event, not a planning element, it was a reaction to an event, then you bring it back to where it was originally resolved, and the underlying zoning throughout the township remains the same.
I'm fairly familiar with the UVA, and I would cordially disagree with you on that because of the amount of property that's needed, but that really doesn't forward anything here, so I'm not really worried about it. And then, Sarah, you said that the PDR area, which is what would cover Wheeler's property, correct?
I did not. I said.
No, I didn't say you did, but
I said from Wilson's Corner to Wheeler's property.
Right, but the PDR covers.
I did not say that, and it's a PRD.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. The PRD, it does encompass, let me put it wrong, it does encompass Wheeler's property, right?
I did not say that. I'd have to pull out the ordinance to show it exactly where it is.
Okay.
I said Ford Road to Wilson's Corner.
That was really a question, but I'll move on again from that. The issue with that is, did you not say that that's agricultural property or agricultural zone, or it's just agricultural property?
Camp Hill Village, Kimberton Hills is under agricultural preservation.
Okay.
On the other side of the road, there are 3 contiguous large conservation easements.
Okay, they're under conservation, but not zoning.
Right, but
Okay.
they are protected, preserved against something like a PRD.
Okay, but Wheeler's is zoned R2, it looks like?
Looks like RM up there. We tried to bring it back to R2 about 5 or 6 years ago, and that's when Wheeler offered to sue us.
Okay.
Because we wanted just to change it back to R2 like the rest of the area, but
Okay.
it is still RM.
Okay, those are my questions, that's all I got, thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Can you elaborate on in the agenda, It says this is a budgeted item.
For what?
Where, George, you're off topic here.
No,
No, it's not.
it's number
No.
11.
That's typographical error that has to do with the acquisition of the snow plow, the truck and the.
It's in the wrong place.
Sorry.
Okay, and then the other one is, just if you were doing TDR calculations, does the overlay come into effect on calculating TDRs?
No, it's a buy right.
By right only, and the overlay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But while you're there, as you were walking away, throwing them in, the answer why the board is extinguishing TDRs outside of the township. Okay. There's three issues that run side by side: preservation, open space, traffic, and school taxes. If you extinguish the TDRs just in the township, all you're doing is extinguishing them in the township. They can be used in other areas where it's part of the ONJ's school district, and by pushing the development someplace else, you're still creating traffic. So even though you are removing here, you're still not addressing your concerns with traffic and your school taxes, because you will still have traffic and your still have school district taxes increase, because you're taking the density here and you're putting it over there in another community, but you are still saddled with the results of that decision. School district taxes are going to go up here. Anything this township did, they're going to go up where the TDR is going. And that's the result of why you want to extinguish the TDRs all throughout the whole region, because you're affecting traffic and you're affecting the school district tax.
But Sarah said it was in the Phoenixville Regional district, whereas OJR doesn't overlap that, except
it does not overlap it, but there are several communities that are in the OJ school.
But there are neighbors, even if it's the Downingtown School District or something, it's still.
You're affecting traffic and you're affecting school taxes, no matter what happens to those TDRs. You're okay because you're not bothered by school taxes. If you go to Downingtown, you're still going to have traffic, and I would not want to be in a meeting where those people who are getting higher school taxes because of what this township did to permit those TDRs going from here to there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, John.
It's off the table. I think it's obscure on that.
Hello, Julia Brendel, 2472 Flowing Springs Road. I just have a quick question. Do you have a map of what parts of the township are in the overlay district?
We'll have that available for the public hearing. We'll have a map of the open space. If I can put A over B, we'll have a third map, so you can see the impact of those decisions.
Right, well, on the Chester County Planning Commission's website, you can actually get those overlays. And I don't know, according to that map, only a very small part of your property, a whether of your property is actually part of the overlay district. Very small part, not the whole entire thing. It's just a teeny bit of it.
The residential mix is not the overlay.
Right, but it shows on the planning commission map, the actual overlay.
So I think you're confirming my answer to Barry, that I didn't say Wheeler's property was in the PRD. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll move on.
I would like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion.
We were still in the discussion, aren't we?
Yeah, and then the next item is
You
make a
just
motion.
didn't get a chance to say it.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Why don't we
Well, go
let
ahead.
I would like to make a motion to authorize advertisement of an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance.
And I would like to second that.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Number 13, authorize public hearing for amendment to zoning ordinance.
I could make that motion too. I'm on a roll, but You're gonna take over
Sure.
pretty soon. I'll make a motion to authorize a public hearing for amendments to the zoning ordinance.
And I will second that as well.
The date, please.
I don't have one.
Do we want to use that next meeting?
I would suggest you hold the next meeting if the board could choose at that night, they can extend the meeting to a subsequent evening
Okay.
at a later date.
Then
That gives you flexibility.
I will make that March 20th and make a motion to authorize a public hearing on March 20th, 2023 for amendments to the zoning ordinance.
And I will second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, number 14, approve the conceptual plan for the Opalani Park.
Mr. Chairman, I will
Oh,
back up here in a minute. We're at the point now where I'd like to make sure that the board is comfortable with the conceptual plan. Because we're going to start engineering work and the selection of products. So a memo to the plan to the Parks Committee tonight, asking them to provide some input on things like the fishing pier, gazebo, top lot, that kind of stuff. So that when we're in a position to place the ad for construction, we know it's going to be built. You see the trails, some of the trails are already in place, some will be constructed as part of the grant project. It'll do a significant amount of storm sewer work. That's not, you can see it on there. We're trying to get the storm water into the pond because the pond changes elevation significantly during the year, even though there is no rainfall. The road will be in where it is now. The horse trailer park is there, parking lot is there. Some handicap parking spaces, the parking lot are already in place. So the only one issue that I think might be some conversation on is that whether or not you want to have a dog park, and if so, is that the location that you want to have it? There are other locations on the site. You could do it. When the project is done, we will be connected to the Natural Lands Trail 3 places. And this will be sort of like a hub of that particular system. So want to make sure that everybody's on the same page here. We'll open up the comments.
Okay, thank you.
We need to make a motion before we comment on this?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make
Okay.
the motion to approve the conceptual plan for Opalani Park.
I'll second that.
And I do have a couple of comments I would make
Okay.
too.
Any discussion for the audience? Hans?
Hans Buitendijk, still St. Matthews Road. Appreciate the outline of the map, but where is this going to be discussed? If this is conceptual overall plan, the details like the design and the themes of some of the buildings and the structures that are going to be put on there. You may recollect a comment that I made a little while ago about the signage that is not very natural. It doesn't really blend in. And so where would those discussions occur that the theme of the park, that it's in a natural setting as opposed to a wild looking.
Well, as I said earlier, I submitted several architectural renderings of products that are available on the market to the Parks Committee.
Okay.
And that'll be discussed at their next meeting, which I believe is next week. You're welcome to attend that meeting. They'll have some conversation on there. There is a fine line between natural and maintenance. And that really is the crux of the situation here in terms of, especially the fishing pier. I did recommend that the top lot not be the typical top lots made of PVC and like the one that's here at Evans Park, but there are companies that produce redwood and cedar, I believe, top lots, and not the typical stuff that's pressure treated that just especially turns into splinters. So, you know, there's websites that I gave them to take a look at those, types of products and then review them and come back to the board and have a conversation on these are the things we want to put in the agreement. Now, we have a $250,000 grant from the county and a $250,000 grant from the state. The state has a very prescribed process. They will review the plans, they will review the materials, and they will approve or disapprove them. So if you want A and they want B, you're going to get B. They're somewhat easy to work with, but they will review the entire process while you make a decision within the next month or two about what you want there. It's going to be a long time before we actually go out and bid because of their process, just the way it is. So that's what I have.
No, very helpful. I'll look for the meeting next week.
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night? Okay, thanks. The other question is the clarification on the map. Everything is very clear. Is that intended to be a sports field in the middle, or is it just an open space?
Open space.
Okay.
It'll be partly meadow. One of the things that will be discussed at the Parks Committee is we prepared a maintenance plan for the park, which essentially shows which areas will be meadow and which will be maintained to some degree. And that will be discussed at the plan will eventually come to the board. We want to, other reasons why we've got this mower thing, it's an attachment to the tractor, is to help with maintaining the meadow areas. It's easier to do with, we don't have a piece of equipment that can do that.
All right, thank you.
Billy?
Billy Brendel, 72 Clemens Springs Road. I think I got my answer on that. So what is the next step beyond this and what is the timeline? Exactly.
Well, I gave all this stuff to the Parks Committee. I think I asked them to do it to me within 2 months. Then it comes back to the board. This is what we like. The engineer is drawing up the stuff that he could do, which is the grading, and there's some grading that has to get done. Stuff on the stormwater management, that's all going to happen. It's the hardscape stuff that needs to get done. And I'll come back to the board when the committee makes their recommendations. So come back to the board and say, if the board will say, this is what we want, we'll put it into the engineering.
Like things like the size of the parking lots and stuff like that.
Well, the size of the parking lots, it's not going to be expanded. It was what was there. The issue is there's two types of gazebo. The gazebo will be the same size that is up there now. I think it's 30 foot in diameter. There are a couple of design features that you can pick from. The fishing pier is whether it's aluminum or a combination of wood and concrete. The walking trail around the pier will be hardscape because it's for handicap accessibility. The top lot, pick what you want. It'll be a small top lot, it won't be a big one, but the type of material. And there's a pavilion that will be built there. The pavilion will complement the top lot. I think that is much in terms of that type of infrastructure that will be.
Okay, because I'm just concerned that we can fit lots of horse trailers there and turn them all around.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that
There's trailer
it was
parking.
tested before they were done moving stuff around.
Okay.
Go up and try.
Yeah, go up and look at it.
Okay, good. Yeah, it is open, so you can get up there and just see what the space is.
Marked where the trailer parking.
Yeah, because without all of the connecting trails actually being connected at this point in time, it's very difficult to ride to Bryn Coed from anywhere.
If there's something has to be done to fix it, I'd like to know today rather than tomorrow.
That's fine.
Take your thing up there and make sure.
All right, but I'll go and I'll have one, but I'll go and take a look and see what I think.
Get somebody else too.
We think we had someone look at it and do it, but more people can do it.
And we got
it works well, then I'm happy.
We got the measurements, the recommended size from someone who deals with a lot of trailers.
Okay, like the big ones.
You don't know. What do I know from trailers?
Okay, Dana.
Okay, I had two comments. One really petty. The The legend, I believe, is incorrect for Natural Lands Trust. It shows it as orange, and I believe it should be red. Like,
Right, we'll fix it all.
And
just
they dropped the trust from their.
oh, right. Trust doesn't belong in there. You're correct.
It's very hard to get rid of that,
Yeah.
though.
So the other thing, what we were actually discussing was about the dog park, and you know, that's an element that I think we've gone back and forth about, and I do believe that there is a public need for a dog park. There are a lot of people who do want that. I'm just not sure it belongs at Opelani, or at least where it's shown here, because where it's shown here, it's not accessible at all. You would have to have your dogs, like if you were someone who maybe was elderly and enjoyed a dog park, you would have to schlep your dog all over the trails to get all the way down to that point. And I don't think that that's a good way to handle the dog park. I think you should be able to access it easily. I'm also concerned because I feel that it is a passive park, and it's a bird hotspot, and I think we should be mindful of putting dogs in a place where that it would be, you know, noisy and disruptive to wildlife. But I honestly feel that that we should vote on whether or not we are having a dog park, and then I would think we should allow Parks and Rec to give us recommendations on where it goes. Maybe it goes in a different park, maybe in a different spot on this park.
I don't know why we need to do it as 2 steps. All right, so my thoughts on the park, the location is so close to the neighbor's property there. I think that's not a good spot. But also, I agree with you about this is a quiet park, and dog parks aren't. So, but I also, because our sustainability committee is pounding on us about fuel efficiency and limiting vehicle miles driven, I think the dog park should be positioned closer to our dense dwelling. Like if most of the people who want dog parks are coming out of Weatherstone, then we should figure out how to do one near Weatherstone. We don't need people driving up and down the highway to do that. So I have a bunch of reasons that I don't think Opelani is the place. But of course, I had a relative send me an article, veterinarian explains why she doesn't like dog parks. And so I think there's just all kinds of other stuff wrapped up in them. And I don't know, and I guess we'll have to ask John and Mark about what kind of liability we have. I'm concerned that the maintenance would fall on our.
There's no liability. I've been through this before. There's no liability.
There's a lot of legal
to the township on dog parks.
Okay, and as I was about to say, then there's the extra burden on our public works department to do maintenance, mowing, whatever, clearing around. And I think I'd like to have a fuller picture of the impact of it in several ways.
Well, I think a dog park in and of itself deserves its own plan, because there's, you know, I actually only recently went to dog parks just to check them out to see.
Did you let your dog go in?
No, because he wasn't signed up. You have to be registered and signed up and sign all the papers and all of that. So there's a whole process to it. I don't think personally I'm a dog park person, but I do believe that there are a lot of people who are, and I think there's a need for it. Just like not everybody's kids play ball, but you know, we do have some that enjoy that. So but there's a lot to be considered in how that is structured and how large it is and where it is. And I would agree with you that I think there might be a better place in this, but I do feel that we should allow our Parks and Rec committee to put some consideration into it.
I think we could ask them to come up with a recommendation of where and how.
Where and what it would look like. There are a lot of options there.
Okay, and who's the liaison? Park and Rec? Who's the liaison?
I think I am.
So you'll take care of
yes,
passing
sir.
that on? Thank
yes,
you.
Sir.
Okay, so we were about to vote on this, the conceptual plan. All right.
So do we need
John Granger's
that?
hand is up, Bernie.
So if it's okay. If board desires to eliminate the dog park from this conceptual plan? I need direction, yes or no, leave it on permanently, leave it on temporarily, or take it off permanently.
Or take it off temporarily. That's the one.
Tell me what to do.
That's the one I'm on.
Well, does anyone have an idea of another location
Yes,
here?
right where it says, ADA accessible parking. So that's at about, say 11:30, as you're looking at the map.
The parking that's already put in uphill from the original parking lot, or all the way down by the road.
All the way down by the road.
That's the parking, handicap parking for the pond. That's the ADA accessible parking.
Wait a minute, sir. Right where it says ADA parking, you see where it says it?
Oh,
That's the spot right there, not the parking lot itself.
I think right there. Right here in the front.
Why do you-
So would that be visible from the road then?
Yeah, it's visible from the road. It's not a quiet spot by any means. There's about an acre and a half of land there. There's a couple trees in there. All you not need to, it's sloped, but it's not excessive. I mean, dogs don't care if it's sloped.
And we will have a connecting trail down alongside the driveway to get to the trail crossing over to Flowing Springs Road.
That won't affect that.
Well, that red line is, that solid red line is not necessarily true to what's gonna happen once they put it in.
Okay, well, you're
Because
just saying before, let's just consider it and
Okay.
take a look at it instead of just doing it.
All right, so if
Okay.
we remove the
Ken, you
one
have
that's
further discussion?
there.
So come up front, please.
Thanks, man. Ken Allen, Ivy Lane, Westminster Township. With regards to this plan that's being presented, we'll go back to Parks and Recreation. John, I know being a part of Parks and Recreation, all of our members have gotten together and made different suggestions to present to all of you for Opalani Park. Our chair did not present the final plan as we had wanted it presented to you. So I personally have never received anything that was a schematic that came from us to go to you. But I know we had a few features put in there that we all were in agreement upon, including another gazebo that would be towards the far, I guess it's the eastern side of that oval, that field, as a feature that would give a view, because there's a drop off not too far from there. So we had that presented, and we also had put in a stage of sorts that we agreed upon as an area that could be used for a lot of different things, multi-purpose area, yoga on Sundays, or Tai Chi, or just as an area to come and hang out. Again, utilizing the great view that's there, especially in the colder months when the leaves are down, still you get a spectacular view. So the question I guess I'm asking is, since I never saw what we as Parks and Recreation presented to John and to the board, were those considerations given to you?
No.
I believe they were given to John, a pavilion for a outdoor classroom. A lot of other things have been mentioned. This is what we need to get our construction going and get the initial features in. It doesn't mean that's where we're going to stop.
Okay, so there might be the opportunity to for further discourse.
It's beyond there will be an opportunity.
Okay. Thank you very much.
This is a multi-year project. Look how long it took us to get the ground cleared.
What?
You already had your chance.
Right, I just have one comment.
No.
No?
You had your chance.
Please don't put a dog park right next to an equestrian trail.
Thank you.
That's my comment.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Next, establish October 21 as the date for the community day and shredding event. So, do I have a motion?
Before you make a motion, I'd like to reconsider the shredding event to be located at the same time and place that we do.
So just set the
Same
date.
building, anyway, yeah.
Just,
The date.
I would make a motion to establish October 21st, 2023 as the date for Community Day.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Barry.
I would recommend that
Just
October
Barry,
20.
just an opening, say your name again, please.
I'm sorry, Barry DeLibero, 1012 Pottstown Pike, Chester Springs. I would not recommend October 21, 2023 because the weather gets pretty bad by that time. It gets very unpredictable since I've watched weather quite a bit for a living. So I would recommend against that date. You're better off in September than you are October. Your chances of getting washed out are pretty good.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
I'm actually not really in favor of that date either, but so I will agree with Barry on that and say no.
Okay. Number 16, approve the police chief's contract.
I make a motion to approve Chief Swinger's contract.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, number 17, appoint Christina Casey as the Assistant Township Secretary.
I'll make a motion to appoint Christina Casey as the Assistant Township Secretary.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 18,
You get the sewage.
discussion of on-site septic management plan.
Mr. Chairman, this is required by the DEP and website. There's a whole bunch of correspondence on this. I recall a number of years ago, the township got a waiver from the MS4 program with certain conditions. One of the conditions was you have to adopt an on-site septic management system by a certain date, which is sometime next year. Because of the length of the time it takes to get from where we are today before we get an approved plan by DEP. And we believe it's approved to start now. The township engineers proposed it's on the website. It's two parts. Here's the on-site septic management program. And there's the coordinates regulating holding tanks because we do not have the ordinance doing so. Allow Ed Ladshaw to review his proposed on-site septic management program.
Okay, a sewage management program really consists of a minor change to your Act 537 plan. The DEP has a planning module form, of which I have many, but one of them is specifically for this purpose. So in order to implement this program, you have to come up with the draft documents and submit the planning module along with these components. So the meat of it is, like John explained, two ordinances. It's a on-lot sewage management ordinance and also a separate sewage holding tank ordinance. So a holding tank ordinance really is quite simple. If anybody needs to put in a sewage holding tank as a temporary or permanent structure as part of their sewage management system, the ordinance provides a framework to make sure that they get a permit from the health department and that it's operated and maintained, in a well-done fashion. So that's really what the holding tank ordinance is comprised of. The sewage management ordinance is a little more complex, but basically it provides the framework for having permits when somebody installs or repairs a system. They have to get a permit from the health department, and the township is required to just make sure that it's done administratively. The other part of it is, once you have a sewage management system, most of those that exist for many years or are relatively new have some sort of a tank. Could be a septic tank, or a newer one that's concrete, or an older one that's made out of blocks. But basically, one of the components is that it gets pumped once every 3 years. So the township is charged by DEP to administratively manage this and make sure that every system in the township has pumped once every 3 years.
So if you're a family of 1 or a family of 10, they still need to be pumped every 3 years.
Right, it's not based on who live there, how many people. It's just, if you have a system, DEP has model ordinances, and the basic part of it is once every 3 years. So they have public information, sheets that can explain in detail, the why you need to do this. But it's basically for public health and welfare and water quality.
And there's no option for us to say at least every 3 years, or not. I mean, it's there. I agree with Burton. I have the house that perks for 4 bedrooms, or 2 of us, we're just. Right. And the last time mine was pumped, the guy said, "Oh, you could have waited another year or 2." I mean, he was doing it in 3 years. So it's another one I feel is a little onerous, but you're going to blame it on the state.
That's their basic model ordinance. I mean, we can try to submit one that's, has a longer time, but at the end of the day, you need DEP to approve it. So we've done this for other municipalities, and 3 years is what their structure is.
I noticed on the holding tank, it says if you no longer need it, you have to have it removed within 30 days. Do we have any flexibility on that? Because what if it happened in the middle of winter? I mean, going in to pull out the tank under the snow would be.
There's generally 2 types of holding tanks. There's those that are going temporarily, that have some other more permanent structure coming, but for some reason it can't be built initially. So the temporary holding tank has some sort of a time frame, which it's allowed to exist before it has to be removed. A permanent one, it's removal isn't as critical. So if it's a permanent holding tank, like for example, the land development plan for the storage unit that was proposed up along Route 100. Storage units don't have a large sewage need, so they were proposing a holding tank that would be permanent. So in that case, you would just have to have a program for operational maintenance. And sometimes there's escrow put in place to make sure that it is removed if it's temporary, but if it's permanent, just need to make sure there's agreements with pumpers and haulers and things like that. So, it depends whether it's temporary or permanent.
Okay. Dana pointed out part of the requirements in the 2019 letter was pet waste management ordinance.
That's a whole different subject.
And we're not doing that now.
I think John can tell you already have some sort of.
Yeah, it's already in place.
Good. I thought we probably did something simple like clean up after your dogs and dispose of properly.
Yeah. One of the things I was trying to understand was about the registration. It looked like they're giving it the 3 years to kind of figure out all of this information based on everyone having their septic done.
And we're supposed to get a certificate.
That's what I'm wondering, how, you can't get your system pumped out unless that person is registered, and how is that going to be managed?
Typically, the county health department has some kind of a system in place that most, if not all, the haulers adhere to. There's a form that the hauler fills out. When it's completed, he gives that form sent to the county health department. So there is a management system in place. It's just a matter of getting us a copy of it. in some fashion, working out with the haulers. So those are things that will work out and going forward. We have in place the Unix, we have a software, Unilogic software package that can manage this from an internal standpoint, so we don't have to buy another piece of software to manage it. And we have a record of everyone who is on the sewer system. So it's just a matter of pulling those records. And if you're not on a sewer, then you're on site. You know, the majority of the township is not on sewer. So the majority of the township that's going to have to adhere to this program. So it's pretty easy to manage. It's just the information data from the point of collection to the point of this collection system here internally. That's what we're
do you have any estimate per month man hours to manage the system for the township?
Not at this time, no.
But it sounds like it's mostly being done by the county though, and then we're just inputting that information. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, our input will be, yeah, it was done.
Right.
The report will be scanned, attached to the property file and filed into the.
And the county will give us the data of who has those unlocked systems?
We have a record of we have records of the online systems here.
Right, but that means going through the parcel files, right?
It's a matter, yeah. You're gonna have to go through the parcel files one way or the other.
Okay.
Either, you know, we do know there are developments that are in the BOS County Water and Sewer System, so all those are automatically out of the system. It's just a matter of drawing a map and putting circles on it. Our guys, our people know all that information. It's not a big deal. The biggest deal really is the recognition of the event occurring coming to the township is the variable that has to be addressed.
One of these documents, and I'm not finding it now, said something that the landowner would have to have a certificate. So the way you're describing it, the hauler could get it to the county, township, whatever, and I wouldn't have to keep track of a piece of paper for 3 years, right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
The property owner, I would imagine being the property owner's best interest to have a copy of the report from the hauler. Anyway, you know, the hauler can fill out the report a couple times and give one to the property owner, one to someone to the county. It's a good record keeping for your event in case something happens and you need to have a record when it's home. It's there in your possession.
And the original letter we got was from 2019. So has anything changed or been updated to this from then? You're referencing that letter. So is there anything else that?
I have had correspondence from them wanting to know the status of it, and I have not responded, so it pretty much tells them where we are.
Anything else? And number 19 on our agenda here is discussion of the ordinance establishing holding tank regulations. That we've said as much as we need to hear on the holding tank regulation.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Hans?
Hans Buikendijk, St. Matthews Road. Just a couple of clarifying questions. I'm not sure whether you might be better positioned to answer that. But what is the extra expense to the homeowner for the reporting, the extra work that the hauler needs to do, etc.? What's the impact on that? Any idea?
Well, the homeowner would have to have a septic system pumped every 3 years. That's the expense. There's no additional
reporting. We do not expect that the hauler are going to charge for the extra work that they have to do.
No, they do it. There are communities in the county that have this system in place. They have forms. They don't have to design a new form. They don't have to buy new forms. They take the form that's given to them by the county. They fill in the blanks and send it to the county. There's no additional expense required for that.
But no additional work or additional work, no fee.
No.
Interesting. The other question is that what's really the benefit that we get out of this? If I'm reading through it, I presume that it's needed because of the MS4 waiver to be continued.
Well, the benefit is to ensure that the water quality throughout the township is not impacted by a continuing growth of malfunctioning septic systems in the township. If something is broken, this system will require you to fix it. So that over a period of years, septic systems are like any other system. They fail over time. So when they fail, you have to fix it. The tank could be through freeze and thaw cycle could become out of square, and when it fix the tank, or the lid might chip because the hauler didn't do an accurate job of moving it. Those things have to be fixed. And it goes down to ensuring that the water quality in the township is safe as it can be. And you do not want to have a community overrun by failing septic systems because they're polluting the water.
Have we had a substantial number of incidents of those?
There are septic systems in the township that are less than good.
I hear that question, but that answer, but that was not the question. Have we had a substantial number?
I'm not going to quote a number. I know there are some. I know there are.
It happens, but I'm wondering how much.
I'm sorry?
I'm wondering how much and whether we know that and whether this will substantially improve upon that.
This system will fix that issue because they will be required to be pumped and inspected. Over a period of time, you will hear people scream that they have to have a new system put in. Some cases, the only fix happened to my neighbor fixing his malfunctioning septic system was he had to put a new disposal system. And that's a $20,000 or $30,000 bill.
But has it substantially improved on the objectives that they have?
Yes.
Well, not that they fixed it, but that the waterways have substantially improved.
That's correct.
Do we have the data on that?
We have what?
The data on that. Do we have
nobody measures the data on it.
Or are you just are we just saying is that DEP tells us something?
Well, it's a statewide requirement.
Well, so
you have to meet statewide requirement, or you'll be fine. The policy objective is to ensure that there's quality water in the township. I suspect that you have a well. The well draws water from the groundwater. If your septic system is failing, you are polluting the source of your groundwater from your well. It would behoove you to fix it. That's the problem. A lot of people don't do that.
I guess that what you're reading into my questions is not necessarily the reason why. I'm trying to figure out whether the tools being used are actually achieving what they want to do. And I'm not hearing the evidence for that. So
the septic, this ordinance will, within the first 4 years or 5 years that it's in place, will fix every failing on-site septic system in the township. That's a laudable goal. There are failing systems in the township.
It's preventing negligence.
Wendy Valentine, St. Matthew's Road. I just wanted to say that always using the excuse like it's for the good of all, it's for the good of all, until we have no rights left or no individual the ability to make choices. So I think we have to be very careful about always saying that, because if we all are forced to do it this way, we'll make sure that we're all going to live so perfectly. But I think we have to be really careful with that.
Thank you, Wendy.
Okay. No one else, we'll move on. Acknowledge receipt of zoning hearing board application for 2552 Veronica Drive, swimming pool addition.
So acknowledged.
Okay. All right, so we're on record as acknowledging. Next, open to public comment. Non-agenda items only.
Laura's here. We got shiny, smiley.
You waited long. Sorry about that.
Hi, my name is Lauren Salvucci. I'm a librarian at the Chester County Library at Exton, representing the Chester County Library at the Henrietta Hankin Branch Library down the road. So good evening to everybody. I'm going to make it quick. But as time moves along into 2023, I'm just here to give you a really quick recap of what the library did in 2022. I'm not going to talk about everything on this sheet, but I put this is 2022 by the numbers for the library. There are copies that are on the table. If you'd like one, feel free to grab one. But in 2022,
the Chester County Library and the Henrietta Hankin branch. We added adaptive technology to make it easier for everybody to use computers at the library. We added citizen science kits. Actually, they are just available for checkout in Chester County, but anyone may check them out from any library, which allows people to participate in scientific research. Those are kind of cool. We checked out nearly 1.5 million books and other physical items. In addition to that, there were almost 360,000 e-material checkouts on top of the physical items that were checked out. We celebrated a grand opening of the Henrietta Hankin branch's makerspace. It has a 3D printer, sewing machine, button maker, all kinds of cool things for the community to use. And saved patrons over $119,000 on admission costs to museums and other cultural centers. They can check out museum passes and go visit all kinds of cool places with their library card. That's just 2022 at a glance. Pick up a piece of paper if you'd like more details or more specific numbers. And I just also wanted to mention a new resource that we have at the library called Creative Bug. It's for crafters. It's an award-winning video arts and crafts online learning resource. Thousands of video classes taught by top designers and artists from the beginner to the advanced level. All different sorts of things that people can learn about, and it can be accessed from home with a library card. So just something cool in case, a new resource that we have available for the community. So thank you for listening. Thanks for your support. Pick up a sheet of paper if you would like.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain adjournment.
I'm so moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next month.